Hey guys, I just want to appreciate y'all taking time to come listen to some coach in Illinois like myself. I think I guess if there's one silver lining of all this, it's that we've got an opportunity to connect with probably coaches at clinics that we wouldn't be able to connect with at some of our in-person clinics that we go to. So today, some things that I'm going to share are things that many of you, I've probably emailed different things to you over time. I've added several new things. Just kind of the goal of today is to try to get you to understand kind of our less is more philosophy. And I think there's no better time to try to think about that policy than right now, because most of us have probably been, our summers have been taken away, or our contact days have been taken away, and we're not even sure where the fall stands. So, I feel like because of how we do things, we're pretty well equipped right now to be able to handle hopefully this, and hopefully you can get some things out of this. So I'm going to hit on a lot of topics. It's like something like 70 slides or 60 some. So I'll try to go as fast as I can. If I don't get through them all, I just don't. I would rather you guys have an opportunity to ask questions at any point throughout this than me try to go through some presentation. So like I said, put questions in there, and as something comes up, if you have a question, I'll be more than happy to answer. So just real quick, because I don't like to spend time intro, and just give you a snapshot, because a lot of things I say, I think some people might not think you can do it at a small school. We're a small school. We have 245 kids. We average about 50 kids out for football. And so for us, we've had as many as 55 or 60 even. We've been as low as 42. So we're in that boat of trying to do more with less all the time. We don't get to recruit athletes. We're rural. We're a farming community. Our school actually sits in the middle of a cornfield. And then we weren't very good for a long time. And so the things that we do now are things that we've learned over lots of time. So I've been fortunate to have the same staff for the most part for 13 years. We've had guys come in and out and so forth, but the core of us, mainly the main three core guys, we've been together for a long time. And so we've done a lot of things wrong in order to figure out what we like and what we do now. So this didn't just come overnight. So that's just a little bit of the background. So the first thing I just wanted to start before we got into the summer and how we run through our practices and things, are just how can we get more kids into our program? I mean, I'm a big talent wins guy. I think too many coaches overvalue their ability to coach guys up. And I know that probably makes some people mad. If the best athletes in our school are in the hallways, we're not going to be very good. And I don't care if we don't like this kid because, he doesn't always want to show up to workouts. He doesn't want this. We've got to find ways to get our best athletes into our program for us to be successful. We can't have them walk in the hallways, no matter how good a coach you are, how good your scheme is, how good whatever, athletes win. And so we've got to get, especially at the small school, we got to try to get them all. And so the first thing is just try to make your program the best in the school. And I'm not saying like you actively compete against other people, but you just make sure that when kids come play football, they have the best of the best. They have the best gear. They have the coolest jerseys, the coolest undershirts for the jerseys, the coolest 7-on-7 gear. You try to make your locker room as good as you can. We're in the process of raising money to build a several $100,000 locker room. We're raising all that money in-house. It's probably going to take us another 5 to 8 years, but that's a big focus of ours. I try to be super active on social media, promoting things with our guys all the time. And we do a bunch of fun events and retreats and things, which I'll show a little bit throughout the summertime, just to make our program kind of stand out in the school. I would seriously fight for this. Find a way, and I'd be willing to help you. You need to get athletic physical education in your curriculum. If you want multi-sport athletes to play multiple sports, then you need to find ways for them to train all throughout the year. And I don't know how many times you've probably heard it, I'm not going to play this sport because I'm going to do this for this sport. I'm not going to play basketball because I'm going to lift for football. I always hated that, or vice versa. I'm going to do this baseball training in the fall so I'm ready, and da-da-da-da-da. if you have a way for kids to train and you make it very general in basis and it's not sports specific, and you give kids, actually, we give kids throughout the day sometimes opportunities to work on their sports specific stuff. It's going to increase that participation through multiple sports. And then if you teach PE, like I'm fortunate to do now, I went back to school to do that. I'm able to build relationships all throughout the school year, because when I was teaching history for the first 12 years or 10 years or whatever it was, you only had so much time in that classroom when you got curriculum and you got 30 other kids sitting in desks or whatever it is to talk about things. But when kids are working out and training and I'm moving from rack to rack and kids are resting and things like that, I can spend a lot of time and I can see things that they're doing sprint wise or weight room wise. And I say, hey, have you ever thought about this? I think you'd be really good as a running back, or blah, 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 blah. And I've been able to gain, like, in our track program especially, we went from about numbers of 19 when I started to we had 35 boys this year. And some of them I worked on for the whole year to encourage them to come out for track. And I finally got them out for track. And then our track season got canceled, unfortunately. So I would find a way to get this in your curriculum. We offer it 4 periods a day. We have about 90 of our athletes that take this. And so it creates that consistency. So I'm honestly not as concerned anymore about how hard we train in the summer, because my kids are literally training 47 weeks out of the year. So we're going to be able to do some things a little bit different in the summer than probably some people that only rely on those major training times in the summer. Plus, if you're asking kids to come in at 6 a.m. to work out before school, and I know a lot of you have those types of things, I don't think that's what's best for the athlete. I don't think it's what's best for the student, or multi-sport participation if you're bringing kids in at 6 a.m. To train while they're trying to play other sports. Try to assist in another sport. I coached basketball for 13 years before I got out of it. Now I'm the head track coach. I was the assistant. And or if you can't because of your responsibilities or whatever, make sure that you have a good working relationship. We don't double schedule things in my school. When we get schedules, we work around the other sports. So if basketball's doing these things at certain times, then we as a football program stay away from those. Same thing with baseball and so forth. So we don't try to schedule on top of each other, because when you start making kids choose, it becomes a tough situation. Plus it wears kids out. And I'll show you a schedule here coming up. And then we believe in the do less, achieve more. Kids are really good. And Coach Holler says this. I'm sure most of you guys know Coach Holler, PN track. Kids are really good at what they love. If your program is the grinder, we're going to turn boys into men, and it's all about how much we can give them, your numbers aren't going to be very good. And you may think, well, that's fine, we don't want them anyway. Well, you can think that way, and your program can stay average, subpar, whatever, or you can find a way to recruit the best athletes out, find a way to make it work, and create those relationships, and you can watch your program succeed. And so you've got to kind of get away from that. We're going to do as much as possible program to what's that minimum effective dose. And a lot of you guys have heard me talk about that. And I'll get into that today on how we do that. And you have to understand, it's not being lazy. I think too many people think doing less means we're lazy. No, we are very disciplined in the amount of things that we do. There is a plan to everything that we do. We don't get out of anything. We just cut out all the crap. We literally cut out half of the things we used to do because we saw no value in it actually helping us to perform on the field or improve the attractiveness of our program. What are your feeder programs like? Here in Illinois, some programs, we have junior high football, so it's school ran by people that teach in our school or former players. Our coaches do a great job of playing everybody, making sure there are at least 22 starters and so forth. And I think this year we actually went 7-1, but before that, over my 13 years here, our best win total had been maybe 3 or 4. And then when they get in high school, we're winning 8, 9, 10, 12 games. So you have to take a look. Are you losing kids into your high school program because of what's going on in those lower level programs? And, if it's win, 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 give the ball to the biggest kid type mentality at that feeder, then you have to figure out what's the plan down there. Are we going to keep it? Do I need to be in contact with them better than I'm doing? How are we going to make this work? Because we want that to help increase our numbers, not help turn kids away. Because if they don't have a good experience at the junior high or the middle school level, there's a great chance that they're not going to come out in high school. So you got to take a look at that. Is it helping or is it hurting? And how can you make that better? And then we did something we used to. I would highly recommend it. I've got a couple articles, I think, on Football Scoop about this many years ago, but we used to do an 8th grade signing day. I know a lot of programs do that now. Just something I created, I think, 6 years ago, somewhere in there, and just a way to help recruit kids and make them feel big time. And when I say recruit, it's kids in our own hallways. Our junior high is attached to our high school. So instead of just having a spring meeting, hey, who's going out for football, we would make it fun. And so I did it for 5 or 6 years, and it kind of caught fire. And then a lot of teams started doing it. And next thing you know, the IHSA, which is our association here in Illinois, told me I couldn't do it because I was illegally recruiting because they weren't high school kids yet. Even though we're a unit district, all of our junior high kids go to the same high school. They just walk from one building to the next. So I can't do it anymore. But I know a lot of states that can do it. And if you're one of those states, I would highly recommend it. It's a way to get your kids to buy in. It's a way to get your parents to buy in kind of right off the bat. So here's how we do it. We always used to do it on National Signing Day. I took the National Letter of Intent form and I made it fit our program. I had the players and the parents sign it. I made the 8th graders bring it to me so I could see kind of, we all run into that situation where we have that meeting. We have 25 8th graders, but 15 of them got out of, some class to come to your football meeting. So when they have to get this form filled out, take it home to the parents, get it to sign it, probably they have a conversation with their parents about football at that point, and then they have to find you. So like the kids would have to come down to the high school, come to my room, find me and say, Coach, I want to sign. And it's all, we don't give them anything. One year I gave them a pizza party, but that was, by IHSA standards, that was deemed to be illegal. And then I tell them, hopefully in 4 years, they would be re-signing at a college. Got a question?
Yes, sir. Question from a coach wants to know, how would you go about proposing the less is more methodologies to head coaches?
I would start with injuries. I would start with how are you playing at the end of the year? How are you playing in the fourth quarter? What your numbers are like. We went all in on less is more when we had a really, really talented team. And we had bought ourselves some credibility because we had success doing it the old way. I mean, we used to bury kids. We used to practice for 2.5 hours. We used to do all that stuff. And then we would get in the playoffs and, we would be really beat up and guys would be just not at their best. And so we wanted our kids to feel their best. And as we go in this presentation, I'll get into a lot of how we do it. I'll get into some specific things that kids in our program have said about it and why we do it. And I think that'll help. But I think if you're losing games to teams that are faster than you, your guys just seem tired and slower than the opponents, then you're doing too much. And like I said, I'll get into that a little bit more, but that's a great question. And it's hard. That's probably one of the number one questions I get is, hey, I love this, but I've got this or my staff's old school or my head coach is old school. How are we going to do it? Well, I think you got to find certain stages of this to try to put it in there. And I'll get into some of that as we go. And then I blast all this out, or I used to on Twitter. And that's why I eventually told the IHSA, hey, if I thought this was wrong, I wouldn't put all this stuff out there. But this is in our numbers, it shot up. And they understood we weren't trying to do something to gain an advantage. But the way our recruiting rules are written, they didn't see it could fit. And they thought that other problems could happen with private schools and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I just want to show you kind of how we did it. So I would just do, I would create these crazy things I just do all this stuff on Microsoft Word. And it sounds crazy. I'm not a Photoshop guy. So this stuff takes a little bit of time, but once you do it, you can kind of figure it out. So that was a big thing I put up. And then this is a kid we quote unquote signed. So I would get our photographer to come in. We'd put him in the jerseys for this first time. We would snap a picture, and then I would create this signing day thing. And then, of course, the parents would I'd put this out on social media. We're blessed to be able to sign, Dominic Williams. He's going to be a stud, whatever I would say. I don't even remember. But I, put all this stuff together. And then the parents, this would be like the Facebook profile of the parents, because, they're already bought in. They think their kid's like Division I. And all he is, I don't even know if he's going to ever start for us, but he thinks like he's a stud right now because, he's being recruited. There's all my signed forms from one year. Like I said, that's the national letter intent. And then in that gray area is where I put things in that pertain to our program and put our logo stuff at the bottom, and I put in there, this is not binding. If you decide football's not for you, then there's no hard feelings. Like I said, it's all in fun. This is not like, this isn't a way to like force kids to play. Hey, no, you signed that. We don't do it. This is nothing like that. So don't think like we're forcing kids to decide in February. We're trying to encourage kids to play because this seems really cool. Like I said, we want our program to be the coolest. And I put together like our signing day stuff. And this is just stuff that I've seen other people do in other college programs or whatever, because they come up with really cool stuff. And then I try to manipulate it and make it look somewhat for our program. So that's kind of that part of it. So I would highly recommend that if your association allows you to. I wish ours still did, because our kids really enjoyed it. And we even had like an NFL combine, and we did some of that stuff just to give those incoming freshmen, make them feel really good first. I think too many times we want to try to like weed out those freshmen early on, and then we end up with 5 seniors at the end, and you're probably not going to win with 5 seniors. When we went to the state championship game 2 years ago, we had 13. And at our level, that's really good for us to have 13 seniors. So our goal is always to have, 25 juniors and seniors. We'd love to have 30 in some of those better years. So any other questions about the recruiting part? Those are just some things that we do. When it comes to our summer, so our recruiting goes right now into the summer. So this was something that I got off of a friend that I knew, and this was something that an athlete had shared with them over what a summer schedule looks like. So as coaches, we all want our kids to do all this stuff in the summer for football, and we don't realize that the best kids that we have are probably doing multiple things. So this is a football calendar that has baseball and basketball on it. And if you look at that month of June and you think, if someone told you as a high school teacher that this is what your month of June was going to look like, I don't think we would all want it. So if we're losing kids in our program, it might be because as either a coaching staff or as a football program, you aren't taking into account what these kids are being asked to do. And I think some people are like, oh, they're soft. What do you want to do? Lay around? They're not laying around. I mean, they're not. Most of them are guaranteed they're probably all working out in the mornings, and then they're doing all this other stuff. And then, what is that going to lead to in the season? So if there is a silver lining, and there's not many silver linings in this coronavirus thing, is coaches are really going to have to pare down what they do. And I'm hoping that they realize that less is more, and that kids are going to be more fresh and have more fun, and their numbers are going to go up because they didn't do all of what they used to do. They didn't have a 4-week team camp and all this other kind of crazy stuff. And this was something that I got I run across these things where people share this stuff with me about, all this stuff, we tell our kids they got to come in the summer, and if they're not there, then they got to do all these 110-yard sprints and blah, 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 blah. If your whole mentality of your summer is to make it a grind, then you're totally off base. We're performance based. I want our athletes to get better. I don't want them to just get tired. And I think too many coaches have the simple goal of the summer is, let's work them to death, because then that will make us better in the fall. And it's not. You're actually probably taking time away from performance-based things. You're probably making them slower. They're probably more injury prone and things like that, because you're doing things that don't pertain to football. If your training does not match your performance, your game, If you're doing things for 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, mile runs, and then you're asking them to play lights out for 5 seconds at a time, then there's a disconnect there. Going out and running a mile and a half and playing a football game in 5-second bursts are not the same energy systems. And we're not getting into all that science. It's just common sense. All right. So we don't do that. We don't make it a grind. We want it to be fun. We do. And we're a double wing power run team. And I'll show you video clips. We play in a power run conference. Our kids aren't soft. I think people think, well, yeah, then your kids are just going to be soft. It's not a country club. We come in, we sprint, we rest them, and I'll go through kind of our schedule as I go through here. We're working, but we're not just aimlessly putting 2 hours, 3 hours in just to get them tired. We actually have a plan of what we can see, and we test it and we measure it and we record it. We don't just come in and do a whole bunch of stuff, run 16 110s and say, okay, that we got better today. I'm going to argue that you didn't. You would get better by running time sprints and measuring them, and then measuring them again the next time or the next week or in 2 days, and continue to get better there instead of doing all this other aimless conditioning. That has, literally killed people at the college level and the NFL level through their conditioning, because they're putting kids in these situations they're never going to have to get into. Yeah, question.
Question, Coach. How do you manage the all-in athlete who wants to always do more?
You time them. So when we time their sprints and we measure their jumps, and they start on, week 1 of the summer, and their first 40 that we time is 4.89. And then in 3 weeks, it's like 5.13. You say, what all you've been doing? Well, I've been doing this. I've been going to my trainer. I've been doing this. I'm like, well, all of those things are great, but look what it's doing to you athletically and physically. And when you start recording that and you start measuring that stuff, kids start figuring out, hey, what actually is helping me here? Okay, going to that secondary workout at night, squatting or whatever it is actually killing my performance. And kids will figure it out. But if you don't ever test them and you just keep writing them workouts and you just keep packing stuff on all throughout the summer, and maybe you just wait till the end of the summer to do some big max testing day, then you have no idea whether what you did in the summer is actually working or not. And I think, and I was so guilty of that. Figure out where we are at the beginning of the summer. I would even test incoming freshmen. Like, I'd put a barbell on their back and squat an incoming freshman, and then test them at the end of the summer. And then when they improved, it's like, yeah, our program worked. Any program's going to work if an incoming freshman has never squatted before. They are going to increase their numbers. All right. And so we got out of that. We don't really max test that way anymore. When it comes to, we do some here and there on some strength tests, but that's not our heavy focus anymore. It just isn't. But we do test speed all the time. We test speed and jumping and all those things on a consistent basis, because in our opinion, those things are more important on the field than a 500-pound, trying to chase a number in the weight room. I was so guilty of, we got to get this kid to squat 405. Why? So we can say he did. How do we know that makes him better? If he's running 465, he's 170 pounds, 465, he's a hell of an athlete. If he squats 315, then let's make him squat 315 faster. And if he continues to improve, maybe we'll go to 335, but let's not chase 405. What's 405 going to do? It's probably going to pack more weight on him. He's probably going to get a little bit slower. And we don't know that that's going to increase his performance. Now, if naturally he continues to progress without chasing a number, then yeah, we're not going to come to a point where we say, whoa, buddy. But when we see performance start to go down in their running and jumping and just their performance, then yeah, that might be the reason. Maybe we need to get rid of the bilateral back squat and go to an isometric split squat, or maybe we need to go to, we all have those dudes that can, well, we don't all have those dudes, but we've had dudes that have been able to squat 500 pounds. But if you put them in a Bulgarian split squat with the bar on their back, they're falling all over the place. They can't even hold their own body weight. Well, what actually shows up in performance? Should we continue to back squat that kid so we can say that he squats 600? Or should we teach him how to be able to do a great Bulgarian split squat with a single leg that might actually be better for his performance? because we can all grind up a horrible looking back squat, or maybe it's a front squat. So you got to think about those things when you're, it's not all about squat, bench, clean, and how, 225. And I used to be that way. You got to figure out, where you're at and where your kids are and what they can do. And I'll get into some of that as we go. Our priorities in the summer, our number one priorities, which are great for us because we can keep this. So this is something I put this together in a presentation I did in December or February this year. But kids can still have fun this summer. We're still going to build relationships, and they're going to be really hungry. And that's our priorities. And so that's what I said. We're already built for this. And then our secondary priorities are teaching what we call our freak standard, which I'm not going to get into all that. We're going to program them to train speed, and a lot of this is going to be on their own, and we've got to find ways to hold them accountable. We're going to continue, obviously, to work movement patterns because everything that we program over the summer is going to be body weight or some other type of thing. And then, the increase in strength thing that's going to be hard to do over the summer, but it's also the quickest thing, in my opinion, that comes back. So if we get back to July or we get back to August, they're going to get back in the strength category much faster than their speed and power. And then we're going to do our best to try to install our base stuff. Yeah, go ahead, Coach.
How do you get the kids who don't buy in to doing the work to actually buy in and understand why you're pushing them to get better?
That don't do the work like in the summer or what?
Coach, can you just elaborate on that one? I think you may just be talking in general, Coach.
Yeah. It starts obviously with the top down. From a coaching staff, we don't force kids to do anything. The coaches pick up equipment, the coaches carry stuff in, the coaches wash the uniforms. Like when we do stuff, we talk about, we're all in this together. No one's above the team. So we don't have a hierarchy. The seniors don't get to do nothing while the freshmen have to do everything. And the coaches set that standard. So that's kind of our standard everywhere. And then, we elect or choose captains that also exhibit that kind of, and we divide them up into teams, and I'll explain that in a little bit. And that's kind of their team for the whole year. So we have, 4 captains that have somewhere around 12 or so guys that they're kind of responsible for throughout the year, throughout the summer when we're training, things like that. And then we just sub them out. So, it's not, oh, go run a mile. You're not working hard. It's like, you're out. Johnny, you're in. Ooh, you're not getting the job done. It's that simple. You're subbed out. Well, you're going to fight your way back in. We're moving on with the next guy. And that's what we do. We sub guys out, and we don't do all this. All right, that's it. And we used to, right? So I'm things that I'm saying here, guys, we used to do it. We used to stop. Everyone stop, both of us. All right, we have 15 up downs. We're not very focused right now. So we do 15 up downs. You're telling me that when push comes to shove in a game and it's 4th and 2, the kid's going to go, oh, remember those up downs we did? We got to do it. No. It's relationships. It's wanting to do it for your buddies. It's wanting to sell out for each other. And our kids understand that it's not personal. If you're not getting the job done, then we're going to replace you with the next guy because that's our job, the guys that we can trust. And so that's what we do. And that's what I would say. But there's no conditioning. There's no punishment. That stuff's not going to – if you have to do that, then you don't want that kid anyway. And that kid will either figure it out or he won't. And if you do those conditionings, all those things, he is going to leave. If you try to get a relationship, try to figure it out and say, hey, so what I might do if we're in team offense and, someone's screwing stuff up, our offensive coordinator, because I call the defense, subs him out, I may say, dude, what's going on, man? It's like you just haven't been locked in at all today. You just, like, what's happening? And then they might tell you, or you may have to work on it. You may have to work on it after practice. We have something after practice that we call a punch out. So whenever we get done talking and we break, every player's got to have a punch out with each coach, just a fist bump. So if I got after a kid in practice or I saw something I didn't know why was going on, I might say, hey, hang around for a second. And then I'll walk in with them and say, what's going on? Well, I failed this test, or, we got to move out of our house, or my mom and dad, I think, are getting divorced. And there's usually something. that's going on why a kid is not doing what you want. And you got to figure that out. Kurt Hester, I got to hang out with him in February at a clinic. He actually creates in which I think I'm going to steal it, like a questionnaire for all of us incoming people, whether it's incoming freshmen or, probably anyone new to your program. Just basic questions, where do you live? Do you live with mom and dad? And you might have to word it a little bit different. I can't remember all the things, but it was like, what's your favorite band? What's your favorite subject? What do you like to do for fun? And it just gives you an idea of who this kid is and what they like so that you can build that relationship. If you don't have a relationship, I don't care what you're telling them to do, it ain't happening. And, so it all starts there. That buy-in starts with those first top 3 priorities that I have in that tier 1. Everyone wants to go straight to like 7 and 8. Everyone wants to go straight to nothing but strength training in the summer, and let's get all of our RPOs in and all that. And like, that's great. That's great. But what are you doing for the kids that are playing football because someone said they probably should, or their parents told them they should, or their buddies did, and they don't know if they really like it. They're just doing it. What are you doing for them? Because they could care less about those things. And at the end of the day, when they graduate from your program, they could care less about what their strength numbers are. They're probably not going to remember what their records were each year, and we know they ain't remembering where they're supposed to go in their blocking assignments. So what is really important? And so those are things that I would recommend. One example of something that we do fun is a freak retreat. So we load our kids up, and so I don't know that we were going to do this in late July this year, but I don't know. I don't know if we're going to be able to. We load them up. We go to a campsite. I got a little bit of video. I'll just show you a little bit so we can keep moving. And we take their cell phones from them, and we have just a whole weekend of team building stuff. And so you can see here, there's just various challenges that we do, football memories, that stuff. We talk about freak is our standard: finish on empty, relentless effort, embrace competition, always accountable, known for discipline. So that's what we talk about. But we don't do X's and O's. We don't do game plans. I know a lot of you guys go to a team camp where you compete against other people in the summer in football. That's fine. That's great. You get your kids together. That's not what we can do that stuff at home. If we're doing 5-on-5 live stuff against another team in June at a camp, to me, that's a wash. It's not that big of a deal. But if I can spend 2 days, 2 nights, cell phones gone, nothing but team building, nothing but relationship building, nothing but fun, that's going to have way more impact when push comes to shove in the fall than that 5-on-5 session you did, or that 7-on-7 session you did with another team. And that's just my opinion. And so when you look here, there's no, we don't even get a football out. We don't even have a football. We don't even bring a football with us. We do none of that. We do everything but football when it comes to that weekend. It's a pretty powerful weekend. So if this plays, I'll show this to you. Can everyone see that all right, Coach? I'll fast forward through some of this. They got a really cool high ropes course. Turn that down. So that's pretty cool. So our coaches do it. We all do it. It's pretty awesome. And we just have fun with it. Like I said, that has nothing to do with then you jump off of this thing. It's all pretty cool. Guys do fun stuff. They have a pretty cool, like I said, this is what every kid wants to do in the summer, right? I don't care, even your best kids, they don't just absolutely love to get up every day and go work out. But if you get them on the blob and you get your biggest lineman and he blobs you away that high up in the air, that's fun. Like, kids are always going to remember that. And we've got data to show how much fun they have that way. So anyway, they have blacklight stuff. We usually have a commitment campfire where we have a pretty emotional night too. We get them up in the middle of the night one night and have a firewood relay just for fun. So those are things that we do. that it helped fun. We do the draft. We've been doing this now since 2012. So I just picked some of these sheets out. So when you talk about accountability, we do divide our teams up in the summer, and then we draft. We actually do it live in our auditorium. I'm not going to show you that video because I want to keep going. We bought jerseys and hats for the guys that go in the first rounds. So those are just a couple of our guys there that went 1 and 3, and so they get to keep that jersey, they keep that hat, and we make it like the NFL. You can compete in anything. So anything that you want them to compete in, attendance, camp, coming to camp, volunteer work, getting their paperwork in on time, selling gold cards, any of that stuff, daily competitions. So we compete in all those types of things all throughout the summer too. It also builds a good team. Our kids usually only miss for vacations or mission trips or things like that. And we're fine with that. I tell them, and most of my parents are already asking me, hey, when's the off weeks this summer? Because we give them like 3 different weeks off. And, but who knows now when that's going to be. But we don't have kids that just stay home because they want to be there because we get them in and get them out. We go from 8 to 9:30 and, with plenty of rest in there. And they work hard, but it's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. They always have a weekend off. We don't do anything on the weekends. So, when it comes to speed and strength, I just want to give a few plugs at these books. You guys can screenshot them or whatever if you've never read them. I've got a couple. I've got 3 in now that I've gotten from Kurt Hester, and which I don't think his book's up here. It's pretty awesome. Rants of a Strength Conditioning Madman. And then a couple he's recommended. And then Dan Fichter in terms of neurological improvements is another book that he recommended that I'm getting ready to dive into now. But these are just different things away from bench squat clean, bilateral movements, get as strong as you can and everything will be great. These are things that are a little more outside the box, that are more movement-based, athlete-based, sprint-based type things that are books that you can get. So just some things to think about. What we do in the summer, this is our schedule. I'll go back. Monday is our max sprint day. So everything we do starts with sprinting. That is if there's one thing that's what's great about this time too, is we can still sprint and we can still jump. And so I'm okay with that. The fact that we can't bench press, that's fine. We're not power lifters. We're not chasing a 300-pound bench press. If a guy benches 300, and he has a 5.2 40, and a guy benches, 250 and has a 4.8 40, I'm going to take the guy that has the 4.8. And that's what happens. So I challenge you in the NFL draft is take a look at the linemen that get drafted and figure out, what their bench press max numbers were compared to what their 40 was. And I would imagine they're all going to be right around 5 in the 40, and then their bench press numbers will be all over the place. And then we do an upper body lift after we time. So we time everything on the free lap, and I'll show you some data as we go through there. If you're not timing, you're not sprinting. Running 10-20s at the end of practice is not sprinting. That's just running. Sprinting is something that you do in maximum effort, and then you give them full recovery, and then you sprint again. And so we only do like 3 of those. So if you come to our Monday session, we're going to do our speed drills, and we're going to do 3 max effort sprints. They might be 40s. And then we're going to rest in between each one, about 5 minutes, and then we're going to go lift, and then we're going to go home. And that's what we do. Tuesdays, X Factor, what Coach Holler just calls things that we believe also improve our speed and power, and it can be lots of things. This can be all your agility stuff, your fun competitions, things like that, things that aren't as taxing on the central nervous system. And then we like to pair that with our lower body day because we get Wednesday off. Because we don't train on Wednesday. And then Thursday, we do some things for you track guys, acidosis tolerance, where we will challenge them to sprint past that 5 second into 10 seconds and 23 seconds, and then ask them to come back and do it again. So their body has to push through that acidity that builds up, as opposed to bear crawling 100 yards or running a gasser or something like that. And then we time and we measure everything. So whenever we're conditioning or doing those types of things, it's all measured and timed because that shows improvement and it pushes kids to achieve more as opposed to just having them do some other type of condition. Go ahead, Coach.
How much time do you give between sprints as far as rest goes?
So the general rule of thumb is for a minute for about every 10 meters or 10 yards. So we could, if we were doing flying tens, we could do it, every minute, but we usually give them at least 3 to 5 on all of them. And if you time, you'll know it. Kids will usually start, like if you run a 40, kids will start feeling better, ready to run in 3 minutes. But if they went 4.89 and now they run 5.03, then you probably didn't give them enough recovery. So our goal is that we can essentially repeat that effort. If a kid wants to do more, if a kid says, hey, coach, let's say they went 5.03, 5.01, 5 flat, and they want to try to break 5 for the first time and they want to run a fourth one, we'll let them run a fourth one. But most of the guys just, again, less is more. The more you go out there and run, the slower you're going to be. The more you sprint specifically with low doses, the faster you'll get. And then we do some type of full body lift. So we'll do different squat variations, hex bar deads, and then other things that we didn't get in on those other days. And those sometimes are fluid. During the school year, they're really fluid because of different sports and different timings. But that's our general plan in the summer, but it changes depending on who we have, what our kids are good at. We may have basketball gone Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so we may just do 2 total body lifts on Monday, Tuesday. So we're not – I got rid of weight sheets and all that stuff. We don't have the money to buy the rack performance and all that stuff. I mean, I'm sure that's great. But we've got a TV up there that I put the workout up there because I don't want to be married to everyone wants the cookie cutter program. Like, send me your weight program that's going to make us better. Well, it might have made – these 5 players on your team better, but these 10 maybe didn't respond as well to it. So I don't like to be married to something. I like to be able to say, hey, your glutes are very weak, like, or you're struggling in this area. We may give that kid more work in some avenue than just have this weight sheet that holds everyone to it. Yeah, go ahead.
Another question, Coach. Do you still utilize your speed training in season?
Yeah, I'll get into that hopefully, yeah. How long do I go till? Can I go till like 1:30?
Oh, absolutely, Coach. Absolutely. No
okay.
Yeah,
I haven't even got into in season, but I'll get into all that. Yeah, we sprint all year long. The only times we don't sprint are the 5 weeks that we're off. So normally we're off the week school gets out. We're off the 4th of July week. We're off the first week of August. It's a dead period. And we're off for 2 weeks at Christmas. Other than that, our guys are training 47 weeks out of the year. That's why, like, I miss my guys, and obviously we all want to get back with them. But I'm not decimated by the fact that we can't, start the summer by doing all this heavy lifting, because our guys have been training for a long time. Our seniors have put in 47 weeks a year now for 3 years, and, that strength will come back. Let's keep sprinting. Let's keep jumping. Let's do body weight stuff. Let's do isometric. Let's do some single leg work. Let's do these things to stay, in that base of what we've created. But, we'll get back to that strength stuff when we get there. Here's some of our drills and stuff. And some of these are early summer. So some of these videos are older. I've got a whole video out there of all of our speed drills. I put it out on Twitter before. I can do that again if someone wants to shoot me a message. My email will be at the end of this. So those are horrible bounds. We're better bounders than that, or a lot of us are. And then we run it's kind of sad because let me turn this down. I just got our booster club to buy 2 rubber runways to roll in that hallway, because here in Illinois it's cold most of the year, it seems like. And so I want to have our guys the ability to spike up. So we just bought like $1,500 in rubber runways, and they came in about 2 weeks into the quarantine. So they're just sitting in the equipment closet, ready to be used, and we can't use them. So that's the same hallway that we run. And that's what the free lap looks like. And we just write them down, and I'll show you some of that data as we go through that. X factor stuff is just, plyometrics, jumps, sprints, just things that challenge your kids to absorb force, generate force. And we notice they got the timer on. We're timing them just to see how fast they can land on these jumps and then get into a 10-yard acceleration. So that's where you can see those lines on the floor. And then you can see the kids are walking back. I mean, I think people are scared to let their kids walk. What are you after? Are you after for, useless moving around the field in a constant slow jog? are you after specific periods of great intensity in your program? And too many of us mistake movement for achievement. Like if we're moving, we're getting better. No, a kid jogging to water and jogging back means that next period is probably going to be even worse than the last period. So if you have 5 minutes scheduled for water, let them walk and get water, rest, and then come back and make that next period really good instead of always gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. Well, guess what? What's 2 hours into gotta go, gotta go, gotta go? What's that look like for a player? I bet the end of that is not very good. And then none of that we're doing when we get tired like that actually equates to what we need to have in a game. You guys are creative. So on our speed development, we call it slow cooking. So here's a consistent, this is me tracking speed data over 3 years for this kid. He came in as a freshman. We get a lot of these kids like 5'9", 5'8", 5'7", slow. Skill guys though, right? Because they're like 130 pounds, 115 pounds. So he came in with a 5'9". Obviously, when we initially started sprinting a lot, he went down a lot initially, just learning technique and stuff like that. And then, like, I think he played basketball. So you can see there's kind of a spike, right? Because when you're in all these other sports, there's, you have spikes in that. So it's not completely straight down. There's all these different spikes depending on the season. And then you can see these nice dips at different times, right? And this is probably, a lot of these dips happen during the football season because we're giving them those rests. And then it was summer of wherever he's at. I think his summer between sophomore and junior year, he finally went under 5 for the first time. And now he's never not ran under 5, and he'll be a key player for us coming back as a senior. Yeah.
Got a few questions here, Coach. First one's a two-parter here. Who tracks all the data and info that puts the information and programs together?
Coach, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Nothing? How about now?
No, I can't hear you. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah. Huh. Can anybody else hear me? I don't know what the heck happened.
How about if the coach that asked the question wants to ask it, go ahead.
Here, hold on a second. Let me they can hear me. I don't know. Let me see if hold on.
Or we can save it to the end and
just go. Yeah,
we'll keep rolling. And then we do add some fun competitions in the summer. Like I tell people, this doesn't make you, in my opinion, a better athlete. It might show you who your toughest kids are, but it's fun, and guys like to compete. But carrying that bag isn't going to make us jump and run further and all that stuff. So if that's the basis of your stuff, then, it might look cool, but it's probably not actually helping you. I mean, so this is fun and the kids compete, but this isn't the basis of what we do because, this isn't making them – somebody say, oh, it's making them tougher for the game. I don't buy into all that. I think we talk too vaguely about toughness. Toughness, in my opinion, is showing up every day, doing what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, and that ain't coming from yanking on this rope all the time. But we do it for fun and to compete, just to break it up for the kids. And then our summer football schedule, like I said, is very minimal. So it's part of that do less, achieve more. So we usually have a mini camp, which we won't get this year. So we're going to probably do like a huddle install instead of actually meeting. So we do that right after our speed and strength sessions. We do a couple early just to get them thinking about it. And then we do 2 late because in Illinois we have to have 2 days of helmets before we get into shoulder pads. And then we do a couple 7-on-7s is all. And then we only do 5 days of team camp. And that includes our strength stuff. It includes film work. And so that's the amount of contact days we use. And I think some people flip out and say, oh, how you get all your offensive and defensive stuff in? Well, then I'll share with some of that our principles on that as we go here. And then what does our preseason look like? Well, we used to do the 2-a-days like a lot of you probably used to do it. And then if your state was like ours, they forced us away from it. It's probably the best thing that could have happened because we couldn't do that old way anymore. We used to go for all that time out on the field. So now we just go one period with our varsity and one period with our JV. I put 3 hours here because people say, well, you're spending 3 hours on the field. How are you? Well, I'll show some practice schedules as we go. We're 3 hours with a lot of rest in between, like the first 2 days. And then in that 3 hour time block is about 45 minutes of film. And then the amount of time you get ready. So we really never go over 2 hours past maybe 3 practices the whole year. And then we get down to about an hour and 45 as the season goes along. But because we're a small school and we don't have a large staff, we only have 4 coaches, and we don't want kids sitting out and not getting reps. We run 2 separate practices, and so it's tough on the coaches. It's the toughest week we have as coaches for sure, but it helps us because we can do what we need to do with our varsity, go fast, especially if we got an experienced group, and then we can slow it down with our JV. We can pare it down, whatever that needs to be. It's a similar practice, but maybe we don't go as far or as much or as in depth. Depending on whatever we're at. Like we may focus on our 4 base runs for the whole first week of the JV, whereas the varsity, we may be moving on to more things because our guys are understanding what we're doing. So that's worked out really well. So if you do have a small staff and you can't just have a separate JV practice, but they're not getting the reps the varsity guys are because you're trying to get the varsity guys ready, that's an option. Now that means your coaches have to be teachers or have that time off during those quote unquote 2 days of pre-practice. So again, that's why if we start on time, at least with practice, I'm okay with our normal 16-day schedule because I feel like that's what we've done now for a long time. And so we don't ever keep them for those like 6-hour days and do all that stuff. So we just haven't. So our in-season plan. Our in-season plan is also less is more. So we spend about 7 hours on the field in season, or doing football stuff, I should say, whether that's film work or on the field. The average, I did a Twitter average back like in the winter. The average was 17 hours of football, and the most I think was 59 or 49 hours a week with kids and coaches. So that's coaches meeting and or meeting with kids throughout an entire week on top of a full schedule. So that was like the record that I found, but the average was right around 17. So we're in the way low category, and we don't meet on the weekends, and I'll explain some of that as we go. And our biggest reason why, like many of you probably, especially if you're young, is we have families and our kids are young. So that's our philosophy. We want our coaches to be able to coach. We don't want them to put their families aside. And so we try to figure out what's the minimum we can do and still be effective. And so that's our main why. Our other why is just the things I've kind of been talking about. So our Feed the Cats is actually called Relentless Rest Repeat. And that's something that our guys understand. Our guys don't even know what Feed the Cats actually means. I mean, they wouldn't know that phrase. I use it because it's kind of a culture out in the social media world, and Coach Holler's done a great job promoting it. But we don't tell that to our kids. We go by Relentless Rest Repeat. We want our kids to play relentless, then rest when it's time to rest, right? It's not – I think some people say, well, you don't need to be relentless all the time. You can't be relentless all the time. It's impossible to be relentless all the time. You need to be it when you need to be. Then you need to rest when you need to rest, and then you need to repeat that. Have the ability to repeat that on over and over and over and over. And that's where we came up with that phrase. So I'm fine. If our kids walk back to the huddle after a play, like if we made a stop on first down and they walk back to the huddle to get the call, as long as it's not a no huddle situation, I'm okay with that. That we need our kids to be able to play the next defensive play. I could care less how much effort they're spending in between plays. I want them to spend it during the play. In practice, we work everything around speed, and we only do specific football stuff. We don't flip tires. We don't do just all gassers and those types of stuff. We don't do that. We do RPR. I'll get into that a little bit as we go. We don't stretch. I think Tony says it best when he talks about a lot of people use warm up for like 40 minutes or 30 minutes at the start of practice and do all this, all these movements and all that stuff. And all we're doing is getting our guys tired, and we're not actually getting them better at football. We sprint 3 times a week. So that goes into our in-season stuff. We don't condition in terms of running conditioning at the end of practice. It's never on our practice plan. Now our players continue to get ready for games by the way we crowd plays together and the way we make them repeat max efforts throughout practice, but we don't have a set period where we do conditioning. If we're going to have them run at the end of practice at, let's say, at best, 80% of their max speed, then how is that going to make them better at running at 100% 60 times throughout the game? So let's say we run 4 gassers at the end of practice for 40 seconds at whatever percent. Your linemen are probably running them at about 20%. Your skill guys are probably doing enough to look good, but not enough to actually push themselves. And then that somehow is going to equate for them to be able to go as much to 100% as they can all throughout a game in 5 to 6 second bursts. And it doesn't equate. Those are 2 totally different things. And so we like to do repeated sprint efforts and crowd those together to get into that same mode for football and to get into those football specific things. And so we like to do that within practice. And I think the best way to say it is the faster you get, the faster your game speed is. If you can run top speed 23 mile an hour, you can play at 19 mile an hour all day long. If your top speed is 20 mile an hour, it's going to be hard to play at 19, okay, throughout that whole game. And so that's kind of what, you raise that roof, you also raise the ceiling of your ability to run. I mean, think about it. Your fastest guys don't get tired that often. Your linemen get tired a lot. So then we keep doing slow conditioning with them, and we rest. So we rest in practice. And then here's the other thing for us. We understand, right? If it was good and it was right and it was what was best, then Division I college and NFL would play guys both ways. That is the best of the best. The freaks, the strongest, the fastest, they only play one way. Why? Because they're not going to be very good if they have to play both ways. They're going to not be able to compete at the NFL level playing both ways or the college level. Some of you say, well, we have to. We only have, we're a small school. We only have this many kids. Well, I'll try to give you some tools to be able to play guys one way as much as possible. And then we try not to let today's practice ruin tomorrow. And that's, again, a Coach Holler thing. If you bury them on Monday because, you condition the heck out of them, you watch film, and then you go out and condition, what happens Tuesday? And then Tuesday you bury them because it's hit day, right? Full pads, hitting, you bury them, you run 120 plays offense, and then Wednesday you come back because it's another full pad day, and you do that again. Thursday you back off again. Well, what's Friday look like? Is that, you think they're at their best Friday? Because if we put all that on them for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then what do your injuries look like? What how many guys you got sitting out? And those are all things to ask yourself on, are you practicing for performance, or are you practicing for appearance, right? The harder we go, the better we're going to be, right? The more it appears that we're working hard, the better we're going to be. Well, I'll be honest. When it comes to Wednesday, I don't want 60 plays and like bam, 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 we're going to beat on each other. Like, I want that on Friday. Why would I want that on Wednesday when I want that on Friday? I want to figure out what I can do on Wednesday to make sure we're ready to play lights out on Friday. And that's just where probably our philosophy differs from a lot of people. And it makes people mad because we're brought up in the culture of you have to outwork everybody, sometimes a lot of times at the expense of success and at the expense of injuries and the expense of your athletes being explosive, because we would rather, do as much as possible and hope for the best as opposed to maybe backing off a little bit and actually seeing our kids succeed a little bit more. We like to keep them caged up. So we want to play fast and fresh on Fridays. We want to find that point of diminishing return. If once we reach a certain point, everything in practice gets worse, then we don't want to get to that point. And I think that's what happens in a 3-hour practice, a 4-hour practice, all those types of things that we get, or a team session that's 25 minutes long. So that's not, and we like to keep our guys caged up. That's what we tell them. And it ticks them off because like our team defense wants to hit the crap out of our scout, but our scout teams are never very good. And so we don't let our team defense, we do a lot of stuff in group, and we do 7-on-7 periods, and we do some inside run where we can do some stuff. But we don't do a lot of team. There's no point in letting your team defense hammer the heck out of your scout team day in and day out when they're not giving you the best look anyway. And the opportunities for injury and the quality that you're giving your defense is just, it's not. So we may do 5 plays, we may do 6, we may do 3. It all depends. And so here's what we're looking for. And I think this more than anything in this coronavirus time that we're on is you've got to figure out what is this side over here. We don't have a full pie anymore, guys. We don't have June. Most of you probably. You may not have July. We may not even have the first couple weeks of August. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like. So what's this? You know, what can we get that's actually going to lead to this? Because if you're like me, you know, you have all these things that you do all the time. What actually transfers to Friday? And so, like for our offense, we're a double wing T team. So, you know, and this is, we didn't do this just because of, you know, we were trying to find the 20%. We've always focused on these base run plays for the last 13 years because this is where we know we've had the most success. And so when we figured this up this year, we had 39 different play calls. And like I said, a lot of those are, you know, a certain game plan play call, a certain wrinkle, something, a shot play of some kind. So we had that many different play calls, but of the 8 major play calls that we have, they equated to 77% of what we ran. So almost that 80%. Most of our offense came from 8 plays. And so if you have a 100-play playbook, you know, how much time are you wasting and how much worse are you because you've got all of these different things? So what is it costing you? If you think this RPO is really good and it works and you listen to this guy speak on it and blah, 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 but your guys aren't getting it, then you probably get rid of it. You just can't. I mean, that's not what your guys can do. And I'll show you some things that what we had to do this year with our group coming back off of our state runner-up team from last year. So you got to ask, what does it cost if I'm going to put it in? I mean, I'd love to run more man-to-man. I really would because, you know, the blitz opportunities that are there and changing it up as we're a cover 3 base team. But it costs a lot to get really good at man-to-man. And, you know, we're pretty good at zone. Would we be average at zone and average at man? Probably. And we tried to do that. So here's our some of our kids talking about our practices. Our top priority at practice are to be as efficient as possible in practice. So we got rid of all the extra things that don't help us win football games. So we cut out conditioning because as a football team, we want to be faster, and conditioning makes you slower. Another thing we do is make the rest a big part of practice to make sure we can run our offense and defense full speed and not be tired. I mean, so we when we do this stuff with our kids, we also explain to them why. I think that was a question about buy-in. Here's why we're doing this. I want you to be lights out, fast. You know, I tell them, when we see the other team stretching before the game, we have already got an advantage. If they're standing in a circle, if they're standing in lines and they're static stretching, we are already at a competitive advantage. And I tell our kids that. So they'll look at them like, coach, they're stretching. I'm like, yep. You know, because we don't do that. We wake the body up. We don't stretch out things that we want to be springy and move. We don't do that. Here's another one. Our football practices are quick and to the point. The goal of the practice is not to wear us down or make us tougher, but instead focus to improve ourselves at our positions, techniques, and assignments to overall help the team function efficiently in the game. I couldn't have said it any better. So if we get beat on Friday night because we're getting beat off the ball, then that's not a toughness thing. That is a technique thing. Well, we're just getting whipped up front. That is too many coaches, me included for a long time, would say the same things that any casual fan can say. Any casual fan can say, oh, man, they were getting manhandled up front. Well, why is that? Well, guess what? You are asking him to play a 2-gap technique against a guy who physically can't. Okay, so what are we going to do? Okay, then we need to start stemming up front. We need to move. We need to slant a little bit more. We need to keep them guessing. We need to bring a few blitzes. We have to do some things. That's what we should get paid to do as coaches. Not just put them in a position that we think they should be able to do, and it just doesn't work. So we focus, our practice is focused on how can we make that athlete better. Yeah, he's a little undersized. Yeah, he's a little slower than probably he should be. So what can we do? And that gets into, like when you say, wow, coach, that's all great, but there's no way that we can do that stuff at our school. Well, here's what we had this year. We graduated 13 seniors, 9 of our offensive starters. and we're at a small school. We were down a little bit in numbers because we had some issues with some discipline issues with some juniors, and then we had a few seniors that missed for we've all fought this vaping thing, I'm sure, and so we started the year with this offensive line. We were playing against a team that finished the regular season 8-1, got beat in the second round, but we had to figure out a dang way to win with no one over 200 pounds because we had guys over 200 pounds, but they're playing on the D line. And our philosophy, if we don't have to play guys both ways the whole game, we're not going to. So, yeah, do our guys rotate? Yes. But we're fast. We had some fast dudes. We're a very fast team. And so we had to figure out how can we win. Well, we got to block on angles. We got to use misdirection. We got to get to the edge, and we got to use things that we can do. Now, if we lined up with this offensive line and went foot to foot and got beat 50-0 and say, yeah, we're soft, yeah, I mean, that's pretty obvious you're not going to win doing that. So here's our first play call of 2019. Should have went for a touchdown if we would have blocked the middle linebacker. So we just some eye candy shifting, doesn't cost us much. And we ran an overload jet to our fastest dude, and we just missed the middle linebacker down here. That play's gone. Why did we start with that? Because we're fast. We got little dudes out there. And so we're going to get to the edge. They're lined up in a 6-3. Now they're trying to figure out, what are we in? I don't know what even coverage. They don't know what coverage they're in. They didn't have the safety. And so that's football. That's coaching football. That's not ramming a square peg into a round hole by saying, nope, this is what we always do. So you got to figure out what can your guys do and find a way to play them. So that's kind of what I think we do better than a lot of people do. We will find a way to play 20 guys a game. And I'll get into some ways we rotate in that as we go along. Getting into our game plan stuff, we do all of our game planning virtually. So our varsity players, we don't have them come in anymore. We used to have them come in on the weekends. Huddle, we have Huddle. Everyone can watch it. So we watch Huddle. Our Fresh Soft does practice because they've had Friday off. They played Monday, and then they have to play again the next Monday. So they're essentially their time off was Friday and Sunday instead of Saturday and Sunday. It's not perfect, but I mean when we play on Monday, that's what we have to do. And then as coaches, because we have families, we don't meet on the weekends. I mean, we have all this technology. We have Huddle. There's no reason we have to sit in a room together and discuss this stuff. We all have roles. We buy the Huddle Assist. It enters all that, data that we don't want to enter anyway, the down and distance and yards and all that. We have people that enter in play name and formation and that stuff, and we create the game plan, and we do it all on Google Drive. So on our drive is all of our folders. So each week we have an offense and a defensive game plan, and we communicate through text, through Messenger, and we communicate on the actual Google Doc itself. That's where our practice plans go, and I'll show you those as we go through. And the coaches have access to edit all of that stuff. So we don't have to sit down together. We can communicate digitally, and it gives coaches the freedom to make sure that they can get things done by Sunday night. And that's kind of our goal. We want the basis of it. Now, we may tweak some things before Monday before we give it to the kids, but we like to share our initial stuff by Sunday night. And instead of having a hard line, we're going to meet from, because I saw some crazy schedules when coaches sent me there from like 10 to midnight, and they're not 10 to midnight, but like 10 noon to like 10 at night, and 8-hour days on Sundays. And you want to talk about burning coaches out. How effective is that coach going to coach throughout the week if you're asking them to meet that much on the weekends? So we don't meet at all. Playoffs start, we don't meet. We do everything digitally. So when you click in on there, this is just a screenshot of what that looks like. So that would be after our round one game. There's the call sheets, the linebacker notes that we had, the game plan, the call sheets. The October 30th and 31st would be the practice plans. So those are things that are all put in there that the coaches click on and have access and read, and then we communicate it that way. And it's really saved my coaching staff from being able to continue to coach with families, because we don't require it. Our wives love it because, the coaches figure out. Some guys work better on Saturday morning or Saturday night. Some guys work better on early Sunday morning. Some guys are better in the afternoon when the kids take a nap. Let those coaches work whenever. whenever they are best. You don't have to have a specific time. And I know some people say we're all going to log in a certain time. You can do that. And you got to make this stuff work. You guys have probably heard me say, if you follow me at all, you can't take what I do and just ram it into your program. You have to figure out what you liked about what I've said. Some of it maybe you don't like any of it, and that's fine. Maybe it justifies more what you're doing, and that's okay. But you have to coach what you know, what you believe, and what you can actually handle. Like, some coaches just cannot handle guys walking on the field, so you got to figure out another way to give your guys some rest. You got to be able to deal with it. You got to make it your own. Coach Holler says that it's in the chop wood, carry water. You got to build your own house. So the things I'm sharing are things that we do, things I've stolen from lots of other people. But we don't do everything Coach Holler does. We don't do everything that other people do. But we take pieces. I like a lot of what Coach Holler does, but we lift a little bit more than he does, or a lot more, because we're a football program, and we incorporate that stuff, and we go on retreats and we do some of that team building stuff. So you got to figure this stuff out for yourself. So figure out what you're capable of, and what what you can handle, and what your coaching staff can handle, and so forth. And I'd be willing to help you. But I think the beauty of this is you trying to come up with it yourself. And Coach Holler did a great job when I first reached out to him many years ago, or several years ago, whatever it was. I was hoping for his approval before I moved forward, and he pretty much said, "Hey, if you understand these principles, you'll be fine." And then I just kind of had to go with what I thought was right. Our game plan to our practice schedule then. So Monday's our sprint day. So I think someone was asking about what we do on sprinting in season. So that's our sprint day. So we do our film, then we do RPR, and then we sprint. If you're in my weights, my athletic PE class that I talked about an hour ago, or however long we've been doing this, you've already sprinted. So your sprint day is over because you're in my class. That's a benefit. So we only usually have a few people that either maybe it's a couple seniors that didn't want to take it, or it's a scheduling issue or something like that. But we don't go on the field. So we don't go through a walkthrough or any of that stuff. And I know a lot of people do, and I'm not saying not to do that. If that's something that you want to do, go for it. We get our stuff done in film, and we feel like giving them the ability to go home without taking the field on Monday makes our Tuesday feel a lot better, because they've had Saturday, Sunday, and essentially Monday off. So they're ready. They're a little more hungry to go back on the field Tuesday. And our Tuesday practice is a little bit better, I think, because we limit. If you make them do all the time, then how much are they going to love it, versus if you only, if they only get to do it some of the time, right? I think our kids have really realized in this pandemic that it sucks when something gets taken away from you. And I think they'd all like to be forced to do stuff again, but whenever they can't do, then that really has merit. And then Tuesday, which is probably what sets us way different than most, is we still don't put pads on Tuesday. We go helmets only, and that's our big install day, whatever, or fundamentals, because we just want to limit the hitting. I mean, you saw our roster. I mean, we're like everybody else. We can't afford tons and tons of injuries. We can't. Some years we can't afford one, and so we try to limit the amount of contact that we give our guys, and we don't have any issue with tackling. We teach all the tackling stuff. You can do all kinds of the hawk tackling, and we have the wheels, and we have all that stuff that we do when we don't have to be in pads and taking people to the ground, and we never take people to the ground. So, and our guys still tackle, and we haven't had concussions or head injuries or any of that stuff. We will usually do a tempo period, but we go against bags. We have kids hold bags, and you'll see that in some of our video. It's not, I mean, if you're looking for Friday night type physical on Tuesday, we're not looking for that. We're looking for proper footwork. We're looking for leverage. We're looking for proper run lanes. We're looking for just our guys doing and going in the direction that they're supposed to, and then figuring out what plays are actually going to work against their defense, for example, on offense, or vice versa. Are our guys getting to the right spots on defense? That's what we're looking for on Tuesday, because we film everything. And I know some people that practice offense one day and defense the next. For us and for me, I've never liked that, because when do you get the opportunity correct? So if Tuesday is your offensive day, where you've got your whole game plan, and you come home Tuesday night and you watched it on film and whatever you thought was going to work doesn't look very good. But when are you correcting that? If Wednesday is a defensive day, you robbing defensive time? Are you waiting until Thursday to change something? So it puts you in more of a bind, in my opinion. And that's why we like to see stuff on Tuesday on both sides of the ball, figure out maybe what we didn't like or what we liked more for Wednesday. And then on Thursday, it's like we believe, the game's been called already because we know what we want to do on Thursday. So this is what our practice template looks like. This is all on Google. I've sent this to lots of different people or copies of this. So all of these, I create this, the template and the timing. So if NDO is 20 minutes there, then the other coaches go back in and they figure out, or NDD, they put in whether they want a 10-minute period or a 5-minute period, and they do all of that. So I don't know how you guys do your practice plan, if the head coach lists it for everybody or what, but we used to share it back and forth like through email, or they would send me what they want to put in there. Now they put it in there. It gives them ownership. They get the opportunity. They know what they have to do. So we call that a non-sprint day. So we're not doing any specific sprint work. And this is more of game plan, doing football fundamentals, that type of stuff, in that amount of time. So here's an example of what that looks like. So this is us working defensive stuff against the Bags. That's us working on our punt team, right? Working on a pump fake in the playoffs against Bags. That's everyone wants to think about, well, offense and defense. Well, think about all the other things you can do without pads on. There's us working on that same jet play. Our guys we're trying to see if they're getting to the right spots. We teach our guys how to hold the bag, because that's a trap play against the bag. We're working down on the goal line. So again, we're not mashing each other, but we're getting to see who's where they're supposed to be and who's not understanding. And we go that way. And we've had 2 broken hands and they haven't happened in this type of situation. Over the last 2 years. And then Wednesdays are full pad day. I'll do full pad days, so I'm not going to get into all that. Our difference is we start with a sprint period of some kind. And then we also try to put some other full speed work in small doses. So a small dose sprint period, like our full speed period, followed by some type of teaching period, followed by another maybe small dose. And I do those in red. And then we still limit our team time. We want really good plays at literally game tempo. Not we're on our 25th play and we're trying to run a game no, we want fast. And so there you can see those different periods there in red. So you can see Team D only had a few plays there. Team O was only going to be 10 plays or 10 minutes. So, we may only get 6 plays with our 1s and 4 plays with our 2s. And we're okay with that. We're okay with making Friday night the toughest night. And you can see we got some two-point plays down there. And I think this was leading into week 9, I think. So here's the start of one of our sprint periods. You can see I've got the free lap cone out there. So we're just working on rocket toss runs with the cone. I don't time those. I don't keep track of those because I don't have time to do that. But I yell them out and the kids know, and they always want to compete to be the fastest one. We're catching quick pitches there. But you can be as creative. You can be at route running. You can have a kickoff coverage. You can figure out who's your best guy to get down the field on kickoff. Lineman-wise, we do pulls. We do backside reaches. We do that kind of stuff. So those are all things that we do with the free lap timer. And that's part of our sprint time where the guys are sprinting. And then Thursdays are our traditional non-sprint helmet day. We do wear shoulder pads too, just so we can actually fit into the shoulder pads like we would. And then we do our pre-practice stuff. And I always say this is like a rolling track schedule. So I actually don't even go out there with a plan anymore. I know exactly, I've been doing this long enough, 17 years, that I know the order that we do things, and I don't have times. And if we're crisp and sharp and everything's great, we're just going to roll on through this. And our goal is to hopefully be done by 4:30. We get our clothes off, and go to the locker room, get that stuff, get our jerseys, and then we go and have a team meal, and we're out of there by a little after 5 because, boom, we want to be good and rested for Friday night. And so we're not. It hadn't always been that way. There's been times that we've went dang near live because I've been mad at something that was going on Thursday practice. But I got rid of that whole idea. And then our game days are also different. We've kept them caged up. So we don't do a warm up like you all probably do a warm up. So our specials. So again, this is kind of where I've changed since I started coaching track. Like I think a track, I don't do a team based warm up in track. Everyone's events are at different times. If my only event's the 4x4, I probably shouldn't warm up with the guys that are running 4x8 because they're on opposite ends of the for in Illinois. So like in a track meet, your 4x1 guys, when they have time, when they get there and they get loosened up, they go work on handoffs, and they do it. They know the expectation, and I can see them doing it. So we do the same thing. Like our specials and our skills go out like on their own. So we don't like say, hey, we want you to run 17 of these routes and we want you to kick 14. This is part of that ownership. Let them build their own house. Let them go out there, and our guys do. Our guys want to go out there and get loose before a game. They feel better, just like those track kids want to go through those handoffs. So they do that stuff while we're setting up all of our technology. Other guys are taping. If you're a young kid, you're not allowed on the field. Then we do our RPR in the gym, in a gym, whether it's our gym or an opponent's gym, or sometimes it's a cafeteria, or sometimes we got to do it out in the grass. It just depends on where we're at. And then we don't ever take the field, and our warm-up lasts about 15 minutes. That's it. It's more of a wake-up. I like Coach Holler calls it a wake-up. We want to wake up, central nervous system. We don't want a grueling warm-up where we're tired. And then the new thing that we started this year with halftime is we actually try to feed them a little bit. And we brought them inside. We used to sit outside and sit around in an oval, and coaches would say whatever they needed to say, and guys would get cold and all that. Again, we're about performance. So what helps our performance? So we started doing this. So that's our weight room. So we actually start bringing them into our weight room. Gatorades, fruits, a chocolate bar or a granola bar, whatever makes them feel better. I want them to be ready to play in the second half, and not, if it's raining, I know someone's like, oh, we're going to tough it out in the rain sitting at halftime. Well, that's fine. Does that actually show up out on the field? No, I want them to have a little bit more energy in the second half. I want them to understand that we care about them. We care about their well-being and all those types of things. So we did that. It was a game changer towards the second half of the year, and we will do it from now on. When I played college football, we did it, and then for whatever reason, we didn't do it when I started coaching, and we got back to it this year, and our guys loved it, and they felt a lot better in the second half. RPR, getting close to being done, guys. RPR, if you don't know, like, you need to take a class, because it is a way to wake up the body, to get it out of its compensation patterns and its survival mode that we all live by, sore backs, we all got this stuff, and put it into performance mode by finding these reset points throughout the body. They're essentially pressure points that go back hundreds of years, that have just kind of been lost over time, that came back to the U.S. by a guy named Douglas Heel from Be Activated. So if you've ever heard of him, and three guys put it together to be able to give it to coaches, because it was very practitioner based. And so I went to classes a few years ago, brought it back to our guys in the summer, asked for a volunteer, and brought kids out, and they can see immediate changes. All right. So I've been doing it now. I'm level 3 certified. So I've worked up to those levels, and I've seen some crazy, amazing, instant changes to kids' bodies and getting them locked in. And our guys love it. All of our programs use it, even to where some kids in programs are going to their head coaches and saying, hey, we want to do RPR instead of our normal warm-up. So our results using it, for 2 full years of using it, we haven't had any soft tissue injuries, with no ACLs, no Achilles, none of that. Like I said, we had the 2 broken hands. One was a JV kid that we took out in a 50-0 game that was playing in the second half. We had which was weird, a growth plate thing this year. I mean, he was out maybe 4 weeks. But we had the ACLs, the high ankle sprains, and all those nagging things, the MCL sprains over the previous seasons, and we've gotten rid of those. I mean, football is a contact sport. Contact things, hands, that type of stuff. I mean, a kid could break his leg. I mean, that stuff can happen. We've had 1 fresh soft concussion in 2 years. We had 2 other ones that even the people are like, I don't know, but they got to sit out. But we had 1 legit kid gets hit really hard. But since we've done our PR and our guys' necks are working the way that they're supposed to, we haven't had those concussions issues. Our kids don't even talk about concussions anymore. You know, we were like you 3 years ago. It was like our kids were like, "Don't go in, you might get a concussion." We don't have that anymore. And you know, in our state championship year that we went to the state championship game, we dressed our entire roster, 9 through 12, in the state title game, in really week 16 of the season, a 14-game season. This year we dressed everybody but the sophomore that broke his hand week 9 in a blowout game in the second half. So I mean, we got our guys when we need them. If you want to look at why maybe you haven't been successful, the first thing you need to ask yourself is how many of our best guys are standing by me on the sideline. And if it's quite a few, then you need to look at what you're doing and what can you do a little bit different. Here we are in our gym and a couple other gyms, and at Illinois College we play, and this is us going through our wake-up drills. Here we do them in a square, and then our speed drills. So we do all this with our lowers on, and a lot of you guys probably heard me talk about this before. It really freaks people out because we don't take the field. Like if we go to an opponent's place, we don't take the field till there's like 15 minutes to go on the clock. Some teams take it with like an hour. So team might be out there warming up for an hour, and it's just like, where the heck is Central? Well, we're doing our own thing because we're fine with being different. That's one of our slogans too. It's just different because you know we're performance based and we're fine with you know going against the norm of what everyone thinks we should do. And that's just kind of who we are, I guess. Here we are. Just this is a short clip, I think, of us going through hitting our wake up spots. And again, I don't want to step on the toes of our PR and you know, I'd be willing to answer more questions. I did an hour and a half Zoom thing with 4 or 5 other guys that's out there on Twitter with a bunch of questions, you know, and I'd be willing to answer some more specific things. But it's very, I mean, for $300 to take the online course, you can do it at your own leisure. It's going to change the game for your health of your athletes and performance. Just trust me on that. You know, and I'm not getting paid to say that. I'm just a coach that uses it and believes in it wholeheartedly. And I've never had a coach that implemented it come back and say, "Coach, that was the stupidest thing we've ever done." Every coach has said, "Wow, like we don't have the injuries, we don't have the nagging things anymore. I can't believe we didn't start this earlier." So, and then just a couple clips here to show how this all went together for game day. So here we are installing a new play. I right, we call it 45 down. So we're kicking out the end. We're running this on bags on Tuesday. It's the first time we probably ran it in a group period. Here we are running it against pads. Again, we missed a block. You can see me down there with my – and then here's the first play of the game on that Friday night. Same play. And that dude is a 4'4" guy. He was fast and fresh. And he sent me a message. He's 190 pounds, guys. He sent me a message I think after this game said, "Coach, this is the best I've ever felt." I mean, think about how many times your athletes tell you, "Coach, I feel amazing during the football season." Here's another play. This is our buck sweep. Here we are running it in the rain with pads on. This is before the playoffs. Then it snowed overnight. So here we are running the same play in the snow. And then here we are that Saturday of the playoffs running the same play again. And there's like, I didn't count it, but there's 6 guys laying on the ground, you know, and it's like, "Oh, Coach, we're not going to be physical enough unless we use bag, you know, unless we beat on each other." Well, I'm here to tell you that when it's time to go, I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, I think a couple finishes there, 2 more guys laying on the ground, and then a stiff arm to finish, like, unfortunately grabbed off. You know, that's a playoff team. That's doing that in the playoffs. And then, like I said, here's our game day goals. We try to play one O-line, D-line as one way as possible when we rotate them through. You know, we're not dumb, but we find ways to use guys as much as we can. What can they do? Down block, they can pull. You know, they're good against the run. They're a good pass rusher. Get them in there and rotate. We rotate our running backs every couple plays. We go fast. We use tempo because we are playing a lot of one-way guys, so we wear teams out pretty early, and then we spread the wealth. We don't chase stats too. We get our starters out. It's crazy. Like, you know, sometimes you watch film or things that have happened, teams that have maybe beat us big over the years, and their starters are in the fourth quarter up 30 points or 20 points or whatever. there's no point in that. Get them out, get your other guys in there, and you'll be fine. So in our year that we were state runners up, we had 6 really good wingbacks that we rotated through. It wasn't a big deal. This year we had a lot of young kids because we did graduate. So we had to figure out when we rotated these guys in the backfield, what plays were still good. And so this was on our call sheet. So if you want to talk about creatively building depth, you've got, again, you can't, that one dude that ran that touchdown, the long one, was 190 pounds running downhill. Well, this dude here is like 135. This dude's like 135, and these are small dudes, 2 sophomores and a junior. So these are plays that they're going to fake, and we're giving it to the fullback, or these are plays we're getting it to them on the edge, or plays that we're throwing it to them. Those types of things. So you got to get creative. You can't just say, "Oh, that kid's not good enough." Well, yeah, he can do something for you. It may just be to fake. So you got to figure that out. And then every once in a while you'll give it to them and the team won't know it. And so here's our last 2 years since we've really dove into this. The Williams kid and the Ross Miller kid have both been all-staters, 2 totally different guys. We graduate just like y'all do, but pretty similar in terms of carries and a lot more yards per carry this year out of our fast dude. This guy is faster than this guy, was probably a big reason why. We only give our guys the ball between 7 and 10, 11 times a game. So again, we're keeping them fresh. We don't get in the eye and run a guy 30 times after we've given them, 60 runs in practice. So, and then we've been able to be successful. We've had, like I said, I showed you these things that we've had healthy kids. We've had a couple concussions. Like I said, only one that what I consider to be legit at the JV level. And then, like I said, these 2 are at the varsity level, but no varsity concussions. That's the key thing. And we were getting kids sitting out all the time. And what I figured out, we've been in over 50 games and 120 practices at all level, and this is really all we've had. And so we've been able, and that's been the biggest success of them all, because when your kids that you've trained can play that are good, that leads up to this. And so one of these losses won the state championship game. 2 of these losses were, we're a 1A program. It was to a 3A program that's in our conference. And we lost this year to a really good Athens team in the second round. So this isn't going to guarantee that you win every game. It's just not. But the healthy kids, fast kids, that's our 40 progression. Happy kids, and this is the things I like most about practice. When we had full pad day, we'd fly around with a bunch of energy because that was the only day we could really hit people besides game day. Isn't that what we all want? Instead of the only thing I like about it is the games, and by then I'm wore out. I really enjoyed the team reps we had after our individual work on offense and defense, and then you gotta love them. So that's the most important thing. I set up all the way back with that first question about getting them to buy in. So this is my coaching staff and our wives on a brewery tour that we did a few years ago, having fun, getting away from football. This is a couple seniors. That's the most important thing. X and O's and all this practice and stuff. Yeah, it matters, but the kids got to know you love them. And what I've found is the less you do, the more they want to do. The less you force them to do, the more they want to do, and the more they're willing to do. But if you force them to do all these things all the time, then they'll do it to be compliant for the most part, but they're not going to love it, and they're not going to do it as well. The same thing as in education. We force all this curriculum down. We wonder why kids don't turn stuff in. That's not what they want to do. You give them a project or give them something that they like to do, they're going to dominate it. And that's what we try to do. And we're still trying to find creative ways to practice and make it game-like and such. So we're a work in progress. If you have questions or for me to elaborate on things, there's my email down there. You can shoot me an email. I got a little more time to respond now, obviously. It may take me a day or so, just depends. But I do try to get back with everybody eventually at some point. Or you can direct message me on Twitter. I try to get back to those as well. So I don't know, Coach, if you can, on any questions here to finish, or how you wanted to end this thing. Does anybody else have, I'm not sure where Coach went. He was having trouble with the speaker. Does anybody else have questions if they can talk that they want to ask? I know there's a lot of information. I cannot see a chat, guys. Okay, I can see a few things on the chat. Yeah, there are some colleges that are implementing this. Actually, Coach Holler just met with the whole Purdue strength and conditioning staff. I mean, this is stuff that Chip Kelly was doing, or similar to what he was doing. So yeah, unfortunately, a lot of them are not. So a lot of them are still in. Like I look at the University of Illinois. I mean, they weren't even going to be healthy this year for spring ball, and they lost so many people to season-ending injuries and so forth. And you know, we just want to keep doing more and more and spring ball and all this stuff, and then wonder why we have all these injuries. How many defensive scout reps do we get? Not a lot. I would say we don't usually ever get more than definitely never more than 10, but probably mostly around 5 or 6. How do you sell your track program to your football guys if you're not the head coach? I think like we work well with our baseball coach. I mean, I don't have a problem with playing baseball, but we talk nothing but speed. We give out speed wristbands and for miles per hour club and stuff like that. And, you know, I still don't get all of them because it's hard to do spring sports after you've done 2 other sports. I understand that. But, you know, I think when you put an emphasis on speed and you put an emphasis on, you know, and you go watch them run and you talk to them about, you know, those types of things, I think that helps. You got to make sure you have the right guy in there that's not a huge volume that's going to destroy him in track practice. Are you filming your entire practice? No. Group depends. If it's something that the coaches want to, but our group periods, like our inside run, 7-on-7, yes. Team periods, yes. A lot of times special teams, yes. So we had a couple managers this year, a couple female students. It worked great. And then we upload it to Huddle and we all watch it when we get home. Someone asked how much do our guys know about football. They don't watch much. So that's why, I mean, you can try to get them to watch film, but you know, we try to give them some clips, some breakdowns, some things that they can specifically understand about their technique. And but no, we don't inundate them with film because, I mean, if they're cerebral and not instinctual, then they're going to play slow. So we want them to understand what their basic stuff they're trying to do to us, but how like whatever our position is, whether it's linebacker or we're reading guards, when they do this, this is what we do, and that's how simple we want to make it. Another question was, do your fresh soft just have practice on Monday, go through Tuesday practice? Yes. And so we were already ahead of the curve there because our state mandated this year that they could not wear pads. So we already didn't have them in pads. So they do all the individual work and all that stuff, yes. Are we a hawk tackle team? Yes and no. We teach both. We teach all the techniques. We focus on getting the head out of the tackle, and we do a lot of that, especially with our smaller guys. But we do teach in some linebacker individual drills, some of the, you know, get your head across, but head up, you know, those types of things. So we do work on both because sometimes when it's a downhill run, you've got to find a way. So we want to give them those tools. Well, Justin, anything else? I don't know where he went. Well, I appreciate you guys all for tuning in, and hopefully you got some things. Like I said, there's my email, and I'll be more than happy to share. We don't have any secrets, so you're welcome, guys. Thanks. Appreciate you.